Hey, Epigenic Gaming here. Today I wanted to give you guys a very quick update on the 7.1 changes to raiding. So an interview over at DEAF came out yesterday where Sloot talked about some of the upcoming changes to raid interactive add-ons and how they affect the game's difficulty by trivializing certain boss mechanics. Now a prime example of such an add-on would be the Exorcus Raid tools, specifically the raid encounter options that help you with mechanics by displaying movement orders or radars. These are also called interactive 3D world options. Now these options were vital to certain fights in Hellfire Citadel like Mythic, Chromok and Arcament. For example, at Chromok, Exorcus would script an arrow in your screen to tell you where to go to soak the patches after the boss would jump in the pools, and a more commonly known option would be the beam radar for Arcament. This enabled players to accurately track where they were placing the beams and prevent clipping of other players, thereby preventing as much damage as possible. This immensely lowered the raid-wide DPS and prevented the immediate one-shots that were bound to happen when players couldn't see where the beams would be placed exactly. Now apparently Blizzard is not a big fan of this, stating that this was not how they designed certain boss mechanics to be, and that players could have too much scripted movement with the current state of add-ons, micromanaging your raid's movement and telling exactly players where to move in the 3D world, thus making encounters way easier than they designed it to be. Therefore, any add-ons that project an arrow on your screen that interact with the 3D world or giving you your position relative to others will be broken in patch 7.1. Now this does mean that add-ons that do things like tracking boss timers and give better visibility on who is being targeted by what ability are fine, since this is all informational, but Chromok's pool soaking frame and Arcament's beam radar will be prohibited. Now what does this mean for upcoming raids? It basically means that Arcament type abilities will be made much harder, in such a fashion in fact that even the world first competitors will find their progress severely halted. For example, Method used an Elva version of the Arcament Raider to get their first world kill on Arcament. Now this doesn't mean that certain fights will be made impossible. However, I can't help but feel that especially lower end Mythic raiding teams will find that these types of raid mechanics will block their progression severely. Since 1 or 2 people out of 20 messing up once with these beams would mean a wipe, and you could start all over again, since the damage, especially during progression of these beams, would be more than enough to instantly kill you and would demand a combat res, which you would obviously were trying to save for the third phase of the fight. Furthermore, it does make me wonder why Blizzard has allowed things to even progress this far. I can't even begin to imagine doing certain Mythic encounters without any add-ons at all. Bosses are so intricate and have such important timers that without this information, raiding would be nearly impossible. So why would they frown upon the 3D interactive world add-ons, but think boss time add-ons are fine? For me, they are pretty similar in that they give on-demand information of your current encounter, but that is a discussion for another time. Now on the other end of the spectrum, it does mean that players are forced to look around at their team instead of single-mindedly focusing down a boss, while never glancing up from their ability bars. And I'm all for giving more responsibility to the players, forcing them to know the boss mechanics inside out and making players proactive instead of reactive like the current state of raiding. At the moment again, using the Arcament fight for example, you could stand around in the room of the encounter while never having to worry about the placement of your team, since using the beam radar you could easily react to the ability. However, like the first Paragon kill for example, they had a beautiful way of splitting up the raid depending on the number of the debuff that you had. Since this is informational, this is not something that will be taken away. So players with even numbers would go to the right, while players with the odd numbers would move to the left of the room, thereby making the ability possible to survive, preventing clipping, and it would be survivable without the easy use of the Exorcus beam radar. This does however require players to react pretty fast and with a lot of coordination. That again is something that lower end Mythic teams will struggle with. So what do you feel about the 7.1 changes to raiding add-ons? Leave a comment below and let's see what everyone thinks. Thank you for watching, and if you liked this video be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more of my content. And if you didn't, be sure to drop a dislike, it's all part of the game. This was Epigenic Gaming, and I'm out. Have a good one.